Agent, the first show for real estate agents by real estate agents. I'm Tim Brooks with the Brooks Group at Keller Williams, at Real Tim Brooks on Twitter.
And I'm Dan Schabowski, at Dan Schabowski at Twitter.
That's right. So this episode, we're really going to be a continuation from the last episode. This is actually the third sale made in real estate, and this is the listing presentation. This is the money shot right here. So, and what we're going to cover in this episode, we're going to talk about pre-selling, why pre-selling is important, the setup for the presentation, and then the actual presentation itself. So besides setting the listing appointment, the listing presentation requires the highest degree of sales and closing skills. I would actually argue that it is much more difficult than actually setting the appointment.
In my opinion, this is the one that requires the highest skill level compared to any other aspect of sales in real estate.
And you actually specialize in the listing appointment, is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's the part that I enjoy the most is the competitive nature of this and the amount of skill that it takes and the consistent learning that needs to take place too.
That's right. And this first segment is going to cover, we're going to cover pre-selling. Now, a lot of people may not be familiar with what actually pre-selling is, and the pre-selling process actually makes the sale and the close much easier when you finally get to it because they're already sold.
It's a foregone conclusion sometimes at the point that you show up. If you can impress your client and show them your value and your expertise before you even walk into the door of their home.
Yeah, it decreases the resistance and the difficulty of actually getting the close.
They've already started to develop a connection with you. You don't have to create that rapport as the first thing you do when you get to the house. The rapport has already been established and you're building on it from there.
That's right. And pre-selling is actually done immediately upon getting the listing appointment itself. It starts immediately with the text confirmation itself.
Sure.
And there are three items that we actually send to a client the minute that we actually set that appointment, or at some point right there immediately when it's sent. The first one is the appointment confirmation video email.
Right, which is an actual video of, in our case, of me, where I'm talking to them about confirming the appointment, how excited we are to meet with them, so that way they can see our face right off the bat. They know who they're dealing with.
And we're not talking about a link to a video in an email, are we? We're talking about video embedded in the email itself.
It is a video in the email, absolutely.
And the second item is going to be a pre-listing video to pre-sell the team concept and our track record itself.
Absolutely.
And it's to dazzle them with us specifically, something they've never seen from any other agent, that immediately we look special.
Because they're used to a phone call from an agent to schedule an appointment, and then a lot of times those agents will kind of hide until that appointment just so they don't have an opportunity to cancel on them, right?
And if they're going to cancel, they're going to cancel.
Exactly. There's no sense in trying to hide and showing up at the house unwanted.
We want to be out of obscurity. We don't want to be hiding in obscurity, hoping they'll forget about us and then we show up.
Exactly.
So, and then finally, the third thing is a video on pricing the home to sell. And why is that so important that they understand how to price?
Because that way, we're already on the same page. You know, we don't have to set their expectations as much when we show up at the house because they've already seen the video. They understand why you price your home correctly to make sure it sells as opposed to sit, and how it's really beneficial to them. It adds the value of why that's so important to them.
Yeah, and why video instead of just sending them a PDF of, say, a lengthy pre-listing packet?
Well, because I think about the 500 emails I get every day. I'm not reading that.
Are you going to sit and take the time to read that wall of words?
No.
But you will watch somebody that's speaking to you for a minute.
Right. It creates a lot more credibility in my mind.
Yeah. And people like to do business with people they know.
And they trust, absolutely.
That's right. So the next step after that is to pre-qualify the appointment. So we've immediately sent out our confirmations, and they're getting to know us and they're being pre-sold. Now we have to pre-qualify that appointment because it's easy to set an appointment with an unqualified
Absolutely,
person.
because they're jumping at the bit to meet with you because their home is massively overpriced or they don't have the ability to sell.
The easier the appointment was to set, the more suspect.
Probably more unqualified they are. And just like it's important to qualify a buyer before you take them out, we want to qualify that appointment before we go on to it, because then we know it actually has the ability to come through. We can overcome objections, we can overcome those things.
There are just a couple fundamental things we need to know to make sure they're qualified.
Exactly.
Like one, what's their motivation to sell? We want to know the motivation, and that's going to come in handy during the listing presentation. But are they motivated to sell?
Absolutely. And ultimately, it's our job to help them get to where they want to go and represent their best interest. And to do that, I need to understand what their goals are, where they want to be.
Do we want to deal with unmotivated sellers?
Absolutely
What happens
not.
to their houses?
They'll just sit and be overpriced regardless of marketing and effort.
So then we're also going to do a market analysis, find out what their home is worth. How much do they expect to sell it for? What are their expectations? Do they think they're going to sell it for $1 million and it's worth $400,000?
Right, and that's great too, because then we understand where they're coming from and what their expectations are. So if they need to be realigned, we can help them to do that. We go into the appointment knowing that ahead of time and strategizing ahead of time.
And then lastly, we need to know how much they owe.
Exactly.
Is it possible to even sell the house?
Exactly.
Is it going to be worth more than they owe, or the other way around, in which case maybe we'll discuss a short sale option, or they're just simply unqualified.
Unqualified, right. And it gives them peace of mind too to do that, because then they really see that you are looking out for their best interest and you can help them get to the goal that they have.
Yeah, so now we have a qualified appointment. So what we're going to do immediately then is complete all the listing paperwork. So many agents show up at a listing appointment without the paperwork.
I would be offended, I believe, if an agent showed up just to preview my house and walk away, because that's not the type of salesman that I want.
What a waste of time.
Exactly. It's wasting your client's time. Well, not their clients.
So always have your complete package with you of your listing paperwork.
Come with the mindset that I'm here to list your home tonight. And to be honest, we're very honest with our clients ahead of time. We don't want them to think, hey, this is about previewing your home. We're here to list your home. That's the goal of this meeting. They know that as we come in.
We tell them up front, I'm coming tonight, I'm going to ask for the listing.
Right.
So then we're going to want to bring, of course, our market stats, prepare a market analysis for the property itself, because you're going to go over that with them. Bring your sales stats, bring your record. And if you don't have a record, bring your company's record. And bring your sales presentation. And we actually use a custom book that we've made.
Yep.
It makes us look professional, like we're...
Something to leave them with too. It's something to help stay in their mind and leave them with that.
And also bring your marketing plan, because you're going to be going over that marketing plan. And on the day of the appointment, confirm with the prospect by text one more time.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us, and in the next segment, we're going to go over the actual listing presentation.
Welcome back to Agent, and thank you again for joining us on the Whatever It Takes Network. I'm Dan Chabowski, at Dan Chabowski on Twitter.
And I'm Tim Brooks, at Real Tim Brooks on Twitter.
And in this segment, we're going to talk about the actual appointment itself, from the time that you show up at the house to the time that you walk away with the listing.
That's absolutely right. And the very first item, it's the very first thing you're going to actually do on the appointment itself, and it's where you're going to make a big impression one way or the other, and that is
showing up on time. And as simple of a thing as that sounds like, over 70% of agents do not show up on time, and that's a common complaint I hear all the time from customers.
Now, we just got a listing the other day because the other agent did what?
Did not show up.
At all.
Yeah, it was an agent that they were already with. They were going to go with them again even after not selling their house for 6 months, but he didn't even show up to keep his own listing that he already had. So we were there an hour from then, and on time, early if anything.
We'd like to thank that agent, by the way.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll share something that was always very important to me, and it was a saying that I learned early on in life, and I've used it ever since. Early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And to me, that's how I would feel if an agent showed up late at my house. They would just be turning around and leaving at that point in time.
Now, this is also actually Chapter 1 in Grant Cardone's Rules of Success. Show up.
Right.
That right there puts you ahead of at least 50% of the people out there.
Which is kind of sad, but important to know that does put you ahead of 50% of people just showing up on time and prepared.
No, just showing up puts you ahead. On time, I would say, is probably
on time's a bonus.
Put you in the 90% category.
Right.
So what you're going to do once you show up on time, and you're going to remind them too, my name is so-and-so, we had an appointment at 7 o'clock, and it's 7 o'clock. Say that to remind them that you show up on time.
On time, absolutely.
Now, then, as you enter the property, ask if you can set your items down on the kitchen table itself. You're going to have your listing agreement, all your stuff. Go to the kitchen and ask to set your items on the table so that you can end up back there at the kitchen table when you're done previewing the house. You don't want to be sitting on the couch or anywhere that's in some sort of comfortable area as if you were a guest in the house.
It's more informal. And it doesn't really show them that you're here for business purposes.
Well, and they're then going to offer you a drink, and you're not going to get down to business
and also
the way that you should.
Exactly. And you can set them accordingly at the table, so that way as you present things to them, they can be, if there's more than one person there, they can be presented to them in the right way. The worst part is if they're sitting across from the table and I'm trying to present a market analysis, okay, I got to point it this way to you, I got to point it this way to you. They're not focused when the attention's not on them.
That's right, and you want a tabletop that you're going to work off of. I actually like to sit next to the clients. I never like sitting across the table from them, because then
it creates an adversarial approach.
That's right. And So you're going to set your things on the kitchen table and then give them a survey to fill out. And our survey, the point of that is one, to keep them busy while you do a very quick tour around the house, the way a buyer might see the property. But it also is another pre-sale item.
Right.
What's on that survey? Hey, how did you hear about us? From the newspaper, from this, from that, from that?
It shows that we market in many different ways and many different aspects.
Were you aware that the Brooks Group sold this many houses? Were you aware the average agent sells only 5 houses a year? So it's all another pre-sell before you actually sit at the
Right.
table.
It's creating your value, showing
That's
that you
right.
can deliver on what you're there talking
And
about.
keep them busy. So ask them to fill out the survey while you walk through the property. You don't want them giving you the extended tour.
To show you every nook and cranny and shelf they hung, and when they replaced this curtain and this toe kick is new.
They're gonna show you every upgrade to the sink in the bathroom, the faucet, every nail that's got some sort of galvanization
Right.
to it, something. And what's actually happening when they start giving you that tour is they start talking themselves into upselling the price and then
Right.
ultimately overpricing it.
Right. They're trying to justify their price by the things that they've done in the house, when many times we know as agents there are certain things that determine value. 99.9% of the things they're going to show us on that extensive tour do not increase the value of their home one bit.
That's right, but to them, they'll think that it does, and next thing, they were at one price, and they've talked themselves into raising the price by $20,000 just by that home tour, and then
Because
they're-
no other house on the market has that. No other house on the
Yeah.
street had this aspect.
So that part is very critical, that you do a very quick walkthrough the way a buyer would see it. You're just going to look real quick the way a buyer walks through the house, and you'll get the extended tour later
Right.
once you're done with the listing
And
agreement.
it's important that you explain it to them too, because they're going to really push to walk with you through the house because they want to show you all the things about it. Just like you kind of touched on there, we really want to focus on the fact that first you want me to see the home as a prospective buyer is going to see the home, because I need to understand that mindset of a buyer so I can put it in the best light to them, and I can present your house and I can market your house at an expert level.
That's right, and sometimes they may insist on going with you anyway, and that's okay, but don't let them give you the tour.
Right.
Let them just follow you.
Explain to them why you are completing this tour very quickly, and just like you said, down the road, we're going to go through that extensive tour, because then we're on the same team here. We want to see it from both sides, though. It's very vital for that.
Now I've got something very exciting for everybody watching, and this is one of my favorite things. It's a money maker. You won't believe how effective it is.
And I'll be honest, I didn't believe it. When you told me about it, I almost laughed
said,
at
"Just
you
try it, just
until
try
I
it."
sat there and I watched it work more than one time, and I was sold.
I actually stumbled over myself the first time it worked, and like, okay.
Because you had limiting beliefs on yourself, didn't you?
That's right. So the reason we set our stuff at the table is because that's where we're ending up back now. So we're going to sit back down at the table. You're going to pull your items out, but first you're going to ask about their motivation one more time, just so they can remind you of their motivation and remind themselves of their motivation.
Right.
It's not necessarily money, but we're going to focus on what they're trying to achieve.
Right.
So immediately from there, give them the 1 minute close. The 1 minute close is so powerful and so effective, you will not believe it.
Yep.
So what the 1 minute close is, we're going to ask, do you want to sell your home?
Well, obviously, yes. You're here, aren't you?
Okay, so you want to sell your home, that's good. Are you willing to price your home at a price that'll cause it to sell?
Well, of course, yeah, I wanted to sell.
Okay, all right. Would you like me to help you with a sale?
Yeah.
Okay. Immediately pull out your listing paperwork and have them
If
start
they
signing.
say yes, get it out right now. And as silly as that seems that it would work, it really does in some point. Sometimes you've done such a good job of pre-selling ahead of time, they are sold by the time you got there.
It works 50% of the time.
It does. And just because if they say no on question 3, that doesn't mean you're dead in the water.
Yeah,
that
yeah.
just shows you that,
Oh,
hey,
they need more information,
Exactly.
and then you actually go through the listing presentation itself.
Right.
So, but if they say yes to that, you are done. Congratulations, that listing is yours. You just have to do the paperwork at that
don't
point.
sell yourself out the door by giving them too much information, because if they lose focus and they're already sold, you may have lost that client.
And because we pre-sell so much, it actually increases our percentage of those that actually
that it
say
works,
yes, because
right.
they're already sold. And as Grant Cardone has taught us through Cardone University, once someone's sold, go to the close.
Right.
Don't sell past the close.
I think agents and salespeople in general sometimes are scared of the close, when really, what's your goal? When you get there, your job is to close.
And so
Don't
that,
miss an opportunity to close.
that 1 minute close, checks to see, are they sold, which they should be.
Right.
And then we're just going to close.
And also, if they're not, we can find out, okay, what points do I need to go into more detail and explain to you so you know how to focus the rest of your presentation for success.
That's right. So we want you to stay with us for the next portion where we're actually going to continue the listing presentation. Welcome back to Agent to Agent. I'm Tim Brooks at Real Tim Brooks on Twitter.
And I'm Dan Schabowski at Dan Schabowski on Twitter.
Thanks for staying with us. And we had just ended the last portion of the show talking about the 1-minute close. Now let's say, for example, they say, well, we're not really sure yet, we haven't heard enough, or we'd like to hear what your presentation is, or your commission, or anything other than yes.
The answer to question 3 being yes, that we want you to work with us
right
now.
Anything other than yes.
Right.
And they'll never say no to that. It's usually going to be some sort of question that they have. So from there, immediately, we're going to go into the listing presentation itself. So the first step that we want to do is pull out the market stats and show them that it's a competition to sell the house. Now, when I say market stats, I don't mean their competitive market analysis, but I mean the overall market
real estate
stats.
In their county or city, depending on where you are, because it's important to point out to them the number of homes that are listed compared to the number of homes that's sold, because there's always going to be a drastic difference.
Yeah.
We want to show them how to be one of those homes that are sold.
That's right.
It's important that they know they're entering into a competition. That also helps them understand why they need to price their home correctly.
Of course, and all of this is designed to keep them from overpricing.
Right.
They have to understand it's competitive. We're competing against other houses because every seller has the urge and the impulse to
overprice.
Yes. So then we're going to go into the marketing plan. Once we go over just general market stats, we're going to go over the marketing plan. We have a 21-point marketing plan. It's a little more, say, extensive than a general, generic marketing plan. But you want to go through that marketing plan with an expert tonality and confidence.
And that's right, because that's where you're going to demonstrate to them. And we don't have to read every single point on there because we'll put them to sleep if we read all 21 points, everything we do. We focus on the major points, but that tonality and that confidence conveys to them that we know our marketing plan works, and we're going to show you why.
Yeah, and what they're really looking for is, do these guys have the goods? Do they have the juice to get this done and market this plan in a complete way that's as much as can possibly be done?
Or are they going to be one of those agents who throw the sign in the front yard and forget about it?
Oh, the 3P method.
Put the sign in the front yard, put it on the MLS,
and pray.
And then we pray somebody calls.
So then briefly show your sales stats. Show your own personal sales stats or your team stats. They want to know, is this guy a player? Does he sell houses? Does he know what to do? If you're a brand new agent, bring the stats of your office and show those instead, and that will cover you. Instead of talking about your experience, just talk about your office's experience.
Because many times clients associate success with the success of the brokerage, even though we know the individual agent is what determines success.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will associate those two together.
And you can substitute one for the other if you're new.
Sure.
If you're not new and you're experienced and you have a good record, you want to put that out there.
Right.
Well, I love that when they want to see the record.
Days on market, number of homes we've sold compared to the average agent.
And then say, let the competitor bring his record
exactly.
too. And you have to say that with confidence, though, and they'll know on the spot that, okay, I'm dealing with a guy
Nothing
that
to
can
hide.
get it done. So ask if they feel confident then. Once you show that, if they feel confident in your ability to sell the home. I love that question. Do you feel comfortable that I could get this home sold for you?
Right. And many times that's a yes right there as well. And if it's ever a no, you also know where the friction point is and what you need to describe a little better to them. Because when you show stats, I've sold X number of homes, you can see that they're selling, you can see our plan, it's almost common sense. You have to say, yes, I can see that this person sells homes.
Yeah, and once they're done, once they say yes, that I'm confident you can sell it, that means they're sold at that point, and then the next move is to go to pricing the home.
Right.
So you're going to shift from there to the CMA itself, because they're already sold on you, they know you can sell it. Now it's a matter of, can you sell them on the right price?
And also, once they've bought into you and your ability to sell it, they're also going to give more value to your ability to price a home correctly as well.
And we always tell them, too, there are only two decisions to be made here tonight. Am I the right agent for you? And what price are we going to set for your home?
Right.
Those are the only decisions.
Exactly.
So, and that's why we always usually have them decide we're the right guy first before we talk about price, because then it ends up a weird bidding type of situation.
Right. Yeah, we don't want them to think we're there to bid on their house, because any agent can give any number. We want evidence to defend.
Yeah, we're not buying the house.
Nope.
The market determines the price.
Exactly.
And we're going to get into that a little bit more here of how we allow them to choose the price. Feel good about it with our guidance, without them knowing we're guiding them.
Sure.
So if they say no, though, as far as confidence in your ability, or they're not sure, then ask them what additional information they need. It means they're just lacking some more information.
And they'll appreciate the bluntness of your question because a lot of times they give that honesty a lot of credibility as well when you just want to show them.
Yeah. And so once you've established all of that, they're sold on you, we're going to now move from selling yourself to selling the right price. You want to guide them, but make sure it doesn't feel like you're pushing them, because any sort of, whenever you push anything, you're going to get a natural resistance, even if you're correct.
Right. And that's why it's so important not to give them your price off the bat and then try to defend it. We let them come to their own realization about what the correct price should be.
Based on the data.
Exactly. Because that's all we're doing, is we're basing it off of market data.
Yeah, so do not tell them price up front, again, you're not buying the house.
Exactly.
We're simply guiding them with information and helping them make a decision.
Sure.
So pull out the market analysis for the property, go over each comp with them, and what we're going to do is actually I like to circle 4 different things on the market analysis, so they're only focused on those 4 comparison, say, pieces of data.
Which are going to be the most important to really determine value. You know, it's not what brand of microwave you have hanging there.
Yeah, and I like to focus on square feet, beds and baths, days on market, and price. And we're going to quickly go through each one of those side by side compared with their property. They're going to circle it, and then when all of that's finished, we're going to say, based on all the data we've seen here, and these are all very close to your property.
Right.
What price do you think we should list it
And
at?
also what we want to point out at this point in time is the status of those homes. Are they active? Are they under contract? Are they sold? Because active only tells us what are we competing against. It doesn't determine value, because I can list a property at any value.
And they're all going to say, well, none of those are really comparable to my home. My home is different. And yes, that's right. They're not comparable to your home, but they are relevant to your home.
Exactly.
And an appraiser is going to find them relevant too. So we won't call them comparable properties. We'll call them relevant properties. And then they're usually going to be quiet about that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So then based on that, we're going to ask them where do we think it should be priced. And that's why we send that video up front, Pricing Your Home to Sell by David Knox.
Because then they already know how they should price their home to make sure that it should sell. And if they still haven't overcome that yet, we can just, again, we're asking them.
Yeah,
you know, what justifies $20,000 more about your house?
And it helps them avoid those common seller pricing mistakes that they're all prone impulse to make.
Exactly.
So if they pick the correct price, stop and go over the pre-calculated net sheet. We've already prepared it with the correct price on there, so we're going to go over that immediately. Have them sign it then.
And that's the best thing too, is when they come to their own realization from the market data the same way you did, and your prices align or in the ballpark, you can explain why that is, and it sounds good. It creates more of a bond with you and the client.
And if they do overprice, ask them what data led them to that conclusion, so we can avoid any emotions or anything like that, that it's special. What data led you to that conclusion?
Because we are going to fiercely defend your price for your client as we negotiate this. I just need evidence to defend your price.
Yeah, and so them, you know, we never want to make them wrong, though. Never, never, even if they overprice, never make them wrong. Ask them to where the data is. And if they absolutely will not price that property correctly, if they insist on overpricing it, then we're going to do what?
We're going to walk away.
That's right.
And we've done that before. It's the hardest thing to do when they've already won a working, had to get up and walk away from the table. But they also will respect the fact that you say, listen, I know what I can deliver for you.
It's the benefit of having a full pipeline.
Exactly. Yep.
So once you go over the net sheet, have them sign it, have them sign the rest of the listing agreement. You are done at that point. They may bump on the commission a little bit, but the commission should be pre-typed in there already at 6%, none of this 5% business. 6% you should easily be able to get covered as a matter of fact and as confident as possible and move on.
And that's, again, you delivering your value. They have to believe in your value and why that number is what it is.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this week. Join us next week for Proven Business Models on Agent to Agent. I'm Tim Brooks, at Real Tim Brooks on Twitter.
And I'm Dan Schabowski, at Dan Schabowski on Twitter.
Agent to Agent is also available for download on iTunes and Stitcher.